This is Lisa Hazard with We're All Psychic, and we have a surprise guest. And Misty and I are going to two-way the surprise guest. The surprise guest is the surprise guest is Sebastian. He is a psychic reader in Mississippi. And
Oh
Sebastian,
no.
would you like to say hi? No, you're not in
Uh,
Mississippi.
no, I for the last since 2011 I have lived in Nashville, Tennessee area actually.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. I think you
yeah.
were
So
originally from there.
I
Okay.
I, I had spent young years in Mississippi. Yeah, my life started at 19, and at the time I was living in Phil Campbell, Alabama.
Okay.
And in
Okay.
2011 I moved to Nashville. So,
Oh, I love
and
Nashville.
that's
I've lived
a
there.
little suburb area of Nashville called Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
I know where Murfreesboro is. I've been there. That's a
Yeah,
wonderful place.
I
So,
do too.
Yes, sir.
Yes, it is.
Misty and I have a question for you, Sebastian. Do you think we're all psychic?
Ooh. I've actually been thinking that, and it's kind of weird. I have very different viewpoints and deities than most people do, as far as in deity. I personally feel that the simplest way to put it is that you're here because I created you, and I'm here because you created me. And so it depends on. I get really technical sometimes when people ask me questions. And so when asking the question of are we all psychic? Well, we're all the same being. We're all the same. We're all sourced from source or what have you. Um, and so everything, including the physical world and all that, I feel is like God unfolding or what have you. So are we all connected? Yes, we all have. I feel that like Carl Jung, in some of his stuff I've read about what in the layman's terms versions, about what he's what he's read. Um, is that we all have like a universal connection, universal unconscious, and they've actually proven with quantum physics. You can Google it, about how they found the God particle or what have you, the thing that connects everything else together. So it's actually been scientifically proven, whatever, that we all are together as one thing. We're not separate from anything around us. So so is everybody psychic? I feel that every single person on earth has instincts, intuitions. That's how we survive. That's how we operate. But just like some people can shoot better than others, or some people play sports better than others, some people can use that skill better than others, and it can be strengthened, and other skills can be learned. But that's usually the first power or whatever that you get, like quote unquote, power that you get, is usually what kind of how the others follow along. It's kind of like the teaches you kind of like the channels to use for energy or whatever. So my
Oh,
first power was on empathy.
That's a
So
good
that's
way to put it.
exactly
Yeah.
what I was going to ask you. You knew it. How'd you know that? Are you psychic? Empathy.
yeah.
Yeah. Empathy
So
seems to be the one a lot of people really connect with. The empath, being an empath. It seems like everybody experiences that. So, that's something
usually,
everybody. Yeah, I know
yeah.
what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, it's weird. I was about 9 years old, and I remember that it was the first time I kind of recognized that I felt sadness on the outside of me and not on the inside of me. Like it was more clairsentience or whatever, like to where like I was feeling like on my skin or what have you. And I feel and I knew someone was sad. We had cousins and stuff living one of those and all this stuff actually in Mississippi actually, and there's like 13 people in the house, and so I tracked down who it was. Of course, 9 years old, it was my mother, even though she was acting completely normal, and she had been acting
No.
normal for all the time. But I confronted her about it, and I was right. And then so as far as in like up in the South, you're frozen actually. Oh, there you are. So growing up in the South, I guess which is the next thing, is I didn't really necessarily transition into that. I just was raised with a lot of contradiction around me.
Yeah.
Like I mean, every time I would join a new church, they thought they had to baptize you.
Oh Lord.
I've been baptized like 5 times or something because the church doesn't
Oh,
recognize other churches' baptisms. It's like really weird.
yeah.
Um, I I personally am, I'm not even like, I follow religious science now, which is not Scientology. It's different. Religious science is actually a branch off of Christian Science. Christian Science is dying out because of their beliefs. Like literally, like there's hardly any of them anymore. But Centers for Spiritual Living is a church that I found that believed the way that I did already.
Okay.
Everything that I learned, like about Hermeticism, about the thing I was telling you about, like a deity being like, that we're all the same deity and that everything um, uh, is I learned from like Hermetic texts and magical texts and things, things I had read, but lots and lots of books. I used to read between like part of going back to like transitioning in the South. I lived in the country. I lived 18 miles from the nearest town. And I grew up mainly in the woods when I was in Mississippi. So growing up in the woods, there's not a lot to do. Back then, there wasn't internet, there wasn't cell phones, So I grew up, with 4 channels on an antenna and lots of books.
Yeah.
I would read anywhere between 1 and 5 books a week, from 9 years old until I was about 26 years old. And then I just got to where I can't sit down anymore. I started doing instead of absorbing,
That sounds like
And
me.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I guess a lot of people are like that. So like I said, I'm looking at the question, as far as like transitioning in the South, I had a double whammy. I had all these weird psychic experiences, and then like growing up, I very dark times. You can ask me questions about it, depending on what you want to talk about. Um, but basically, like I was psychic and didn't know what was happening to me. And when I went to the bookstore at about 10 years old, I didn't know what to look for. And so I started studying the negative stuff.
Right.
So I started studying, when I was a very young age, studying the negative stuff because that's what I was, around. I was like watching horror movies, back then it was like what you did, all summer long, so garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
But that allowed a very dark entity to, I became oppressed over a period of a couple of years. And it started out voluntarily. I would let this entity take over my body. And then as time went on, it got to where I was no longer in control. And I had a very hard school life because I wasn't just odd and psychic.
Wait,
and just
did you see
awkward.
it? Did you see it?
This
No,
entity.
no, no. I had pictures of it in my mind. But the reason I know it wasn't just in my head is because I do have a stress disorder. And so back then, before I was basically kind of like not I was not right minded. So that's how it was able to get to me, I guess, because I was weak.
Right.
Well, I moved to a whole other state, and like I had about a year after I had been there in this other state, I had made a new friend. Her name was Kimberly. Had never talked about that. Thought there's a whole story that I'll have to write one day about like how I got rid of them and everything. And when I got rid of them, it was actually like probably about 100 of them that I had at that point in time.
Now you say him. You say him in particular. Is a masculine kind of entity or?
He went by the he went by the name of Brandon.
Okay.
Like it was just this other entity. When it would happen, I would like step back in like a tunnel, and he would be doing stuff.
Like what did he look like?
Well, that's what I'm saying. He looked like me, but like I'm saying,
Okay.
it wasn't like I never saw him, but people said my face would change, like my physical features would change a little bit. So like I said, I got when I was 18, the December of when I was 18, I went through like a modern day, just me and deity, got rid of them. And I remember like praying or whatever. I had no idea what to do, and I couldn't pray anymore to anything. Like it was like kind of having the worst writer's block. You can't even think to pray. You can't even formulate a word with that intention. Freaked me out. So somehow I broke through, came home, started praying, whatever. And when I was kneeling or whatever, all these energy wings were coming out of me. All this energy, like wings and stuff. I know it as energy now, but all these, it felt like wings flapping out, like leaving. And ever since then, I've had control as much as I can of my mind. Maybe not my emotions or thought processes, but I mean, I
nobody has that.
Yeah, right. Right.
Yeah.
So, like I said, a year later, Kimberly, I was telling you about, we went ghost hunting one night. I used to go ghost hunting a lot when I lived in Alabama. I would go ghost hunting, and she came back. We came back to my apartment. I was probably about, I guess, 19, 20 years old. Came back to my apartment, and she told me that somebody she thinks something followed us home that came outside. Like she's gonna go outside and see what it is. I was like, okay. Remember, she never heard me talk about this entity, and this entity, when it would take over me, it would have like try to split my tongue in half with a knife. It would try to cut my tongue. It like burn people. It was very chaotic. And when she came back in the house, it was him in her. She had never done that, walked the same, talked the same, responded to the name once I figured out what was going on. That's how and we there was only one other person in the house. She kept trying to stab us, and he had to hold her down. And I had just started learning about deity and power and spirit and all that. Even though I had been studying witchcraft for years, I had never understood that part of it. So I was being told to call on, at the time, the terminology I had was Holy Spirit, but I was too scared for that at the time. And so I took my divinity stone and I put it up against her head, and I told Brandon that he can either jump into me or get out, or I would jump out of her and into me because I knew I could probably get rid of him. And it happened. She doesn't remember hardly any of it. It happened. I got rid of him. About a week later, he wasn't in me anymore. And about a week later, I was trying to take a nap for work, and all these bricks started going on my chest. I couldn't breathe, and something was choking me. And it was going to choke me to death. And I was able to now. I don't know what people's religious beliefs are, but at that point in time, and I still kind of do, I have weird beliefs, but I was, because of my subconscious, I at the time I used the word Jesus. And that's a controversial subject nowadays. But that's just what I now know is like a word of power. It doesn't necessarily
what. It's like a mantra, kind of. Yeah.
Right.
That was your savior. Yeah.
Right. Matters what you give to it. So I said that, and it loosened, and I heard something growl. And I had learned that you're supposed to ask the name of a spirit. I said, who are you? And it said hate. And I had been severely abused in school for many years, from 3rd grade to about 11th grade. Severely abused by the student body, not the teachers, very, very badly. I've asked my sister, if it was as bad as I remember, because I did have a disorder, and she says, yes, it is. So that's where that hate came from. That's where that hate came from. And so I got it the next day. After I got rid of him, I rebuked him and everything, and then I realized that I had started getting help from my psychiatrist, or my stress disorder. And so I actually told this. I actually, even though he wasn't there, completely banished him, and then closed that part of my mind that he was getting access into me through. And now, years later, giving thousands of readings, on my web, from my website, psychic hotlines, my own businesses that I've done, the right side of my mind is psychic, and the left side of my mind, not necessarily the brain, I don't know how that works. The left side of my mind is reason, logic, and imagination.
Okay.
So if the information is on the right side of my mind, I've tried to intentionally, like, I don't know if I'm holding myself back psychologically or not, but I mean, I've tried to move, have certain thoughts in my right side of my mind, like where the psychic stuff is.
Yeah.
And if it's the wrong kind of thought, it doesn't operate. It just stops. Like, it stops like a brick wall or whatever. It just doesn't go through. It's like it's like a two-way communication.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I closed off that part of my mind frame that at the time I called it my mind frame, but I closed off that door to where stuff like he specifically, whatever it was, couldn't get in. It was actually a they, but primarily it was a demon of hate. Like I said, when it growled at me, it was trying to basically kill me. It growled when I asked it, like, what's your name? And so and by knowing what type of demon it was, that's the name it gave me. That's what I rebuked, was hate. I have had a lot happen to me, even more than I've been homeless. I've had 2 long-term partners. I've had strangely enough, I haven't had a lot of people die, in my life. I've never been close to somebody at the time of their passing. So I'm very lucky in that way. But it's kind of weird, interacting with spirits or what have you, which is not the main thing I do. I'm actually more of an energy reader. I'm claircognizant and empathic, which basically makes me a mind reader and future predictor. So that's the main things I do. I give psychic readings and stuff on my website. Is it okay if my website thing?
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask you. I'd love to. Okay, cool. Where can we find you, Sebastian? Where can people come find out about you? And
yeah. Well, the website that is almost done. It's called When Pigs Fly Psychics. We got a lot of headway today. A lot of the problems that was with the site were fixed today, very quickly. Actually, we thought it was going to take us days, and that was kind of cool. It was all like bam, bam, bam. So it's up. The emails are working. Activations are working now. So you do have to activate through your email now. So security's better. Blah blah blah. Basically, it's if you've ever been to a psychic store, like
Metaphysical shop.
and
Yeah.
metaphysical psychic store, holistic store. They have the crystals and the incense, and there's even like Earthbound Trading Company in a lot of malls in America. That type of atmosphere, of mystical and social, and ooh, look at this, and oh, let's go do the workshop in the back of the store with the psychic and get readings. That's what I'm trying to create. That whole social atmosphere of fun is what I'm creating, and it's because of my experiences, as a psychic. I've talked to. As far as I can tell, I've talked to angels. I've talked to spirits. I like making spirit boards. It's a craft I have that I haven't been doing it the last few years.
Ooh, you can put them in your metaphysical store.
Yeah,
I just would like to. I'd like to let the listeners know. I will put the link to When Pigs Fly Psychics in the description, so you can just hopefully get it that way. And I really like the site so far. I think it's really interesting. And something you just said made me think of something.
Check it out.
Yeah, it's really cool. And we had talked on Halloween, Sebastian and I, and
randomly.
I know, it was really exciting. It was like I was in a horrible mood, and he cheered me up. He had a lot of ideas. So when I looked at this site, it was like really neat because there was like a chat coming up here. That's not what I was getting at. I just went back. My mind's just, but,
well,
but I wanted to ask. Well, I wanted to ask you about like when you started communicating with spirits in particular. How was that? Was this of course there's that first experience you had and it carried on?
Oh well, because of my mental instability at the time, because of the chemicals in my body, because I feel that if I have to put a chemical substance in my body and it corrects mechanically my thinking, then that's something wrong with my body, not wrong with me.
Right. Right. It's physical. It's the same thing. Yeah.
Something, but before that, I was primarily clairaudient. Is what was the scariest thing. Is I would like be driving down the road and I would be trying to go to sleep and they'd be like a church whispering that would keep me up, or someone would be knocking at the door all the time, and I'd go there and there's no one there.
So what does it still happen? I'm kind of curious because this is something that happens to me. Yeah.
No, well, kind of stuff used to happen, but when I started doing professional psychic work 10 years ago, after about a year, it developed an on-off switch. So when I go into a reading, it turns on now. When I'm not in a reading, it turns off.
That's cool.
So I get to have a normal life. It was before I started doing professional psychic work, it was always on.
Yeah.
Always. And so there are some things.
That's a good thing. I'm glad that
I'm glad you figured that out too. That's amazing that you could. For me, I just kind of tuned it out. I had it when I was younger, hearing, but not a lot of things, just weird little sounds. And I never really noticed how I tuned it out until I took Theraflu last year because I was sick, and I started hearing all the sounds I always hear, but I was noticing them. Like, why is there a quacking sound up in the air above the corner of the room? Oh, that stuff happens all the time. I'm just noticing it. Again, it's kind of like like it was always there, and then it kind of like pushed it all back, and then when I was up there, it happened again.
It got you when you're down.
Yeah. I like Theraflu. Sometimes it's one of the best things about getting sick is to get to drink the Theraflu.
Oh yeah, the cough syrup's not a problem here. Yeah. Thank God for the cough syrup, magic cough syrup.
So after I got rid of Brandon, a few years later, I started getting true help because I wasn't getting the right kind of help at first. But I started getting true help. When I started getting true help, a lot of my memories went away. I've recently discovered that about half of my life is gone. That because over the last several years, I've shared memories and stuff like that, and some really big things is not accurate. So my origin story, which is one of the things I think he was asking, my psychic journey, what have you, before the show, is that my origin story starts at 19. 19 is when my best friend of 20 years, who I still talk to, she's actually working for me on eBay right now, putting our products on eBay. We've been friends 20 years, and it's because she called me to be my friend. We had met, and she called me on my home phone, if you remember that.
Yeah.
She called me on my home phone. And, we've been friends ever since. She lives in another state, of course. But she really started getting me, she really started getting me out of my shell. I realized I needed to learn things again. And when I getting leveled out, I was starting on 22, getting really leveled out. It took a while, but they found the right medicines, and I do Uber, I do Amazon Flex, and then I've had my own psychic business since the June of 2013. So
Okay.
I've given thousands of readings at this point, and sometimes I get down on myself like, oh, I don't have anything, I don't have any children or anything to pass on a legacy, what have you. So that's what whenpigsflypsychics.com is. It's me being there to try to help other psychics and other people connect and socialize, and not be alone, because that's the biggest thing. The hardest part of my psychic journey, the hardest part, being in the South, is that there's not people like me here. I'm a gay psychic. That's my job. It's not, in many areas. Now, Nashville, Tennessee, people are pretty cool because people come from all over the world here. But
Yes.
but they're like, say, Mississippi, where I grew up, Alabama. These places aren't like out west, or California and Oregon and Colorado. All these places that the mentalities are very different, and the people just themselves are exposed to it, and when you're exposed to something, it kind of sometimes becomes
Comes
part of you.
natural. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's you eat healthier if you're from California. Like my friend, if you're from
Yeah.
stuff like
I
that,
lived out west. You do. There's so much better food. There's like
Colorado,
places. Yeah, the
same
food's
thing.
cheaper too. It's like good food that's not
It's good
expensive.
food,
It's like,
right? It's just the laws are
yeah.
different and stuff. So yeah, so that's that. Growing up in the South, that was our hardest part, is being alone. And so I don't want people to be alone. So one of the things that I offer, if someone were to, like, I'm looking for psychics, if someone were to come, work for me, one of the things I offer, is I've been doing this 10 years. I have a lot of little uh psychic isms or whatever. It's like ways of thinking in order to be able to do a psychic job in the first place. Otherwise, it'll get overwhelming, or you'll have crisis of faith, and all this stuff. Because you can't help everybody. That's the reality. It's not a one pill fits all. Sometimes you're not the psychic for them, but usually, if someone, I believe that when you go into a reading, that whatever happens during that reading is what's meant to happen.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
number.
I agree.
And that I want to say this because I've never got to say it like on a podcast thing before, where a lot of people will hear it. Okay, so I lose my train of thought because I got excited.
I do that too.
We all do.
Like, I finally get to say this because I'm on a podcast, and
I forgot.
Well, a lot of things, about psychic, and about what we're doing as far as in psychic work is we're reading the past and the present, and it's more like a weather forecast for the future. At least when I do reading, it's more like a forecast. So I keep looking down and reading, as I need to get out of my direction.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That's why mine's over here.
So I always want to tell people about how destiny works. It's one of the primary things that when I give a reading that I usually have to explain to people. I remember, by the way, this is what it is. So it's my little poetic thing that I've always wanted to let people know. Which is free will is the paint on the canvas of destiny. So everything in your life, the framework, the limitations, the beginning, the end, everything, the overall story arc, the overall lessons, think however you want to think of that, is the canvas, and everything else is made up of our decisions. And sometimes even the who, because there's certain people are like destiny people, and certain people are like free will people that just are used for whatever our free choices are.
That's a really good metaphor there. I've never heard that before. That's really good. Yeah. I like that.
So I try to explain people that, because a lot of people get so fearful because they think it can only be one way, and that's not what it is. Most things, after you get a reading, if you change the way that if you change the way that you're thinking or whatever, a lot of things, not all, but most things can be made better, or made worse or whatever.
Yeah, I have found that too. If I put more of a positive mind to something when I'm going in, I was just saying, if you put more of a positive mind towards something.
I'm actually totally like.
Okay, I think Sebastian is cutting out.
Oh, you're back.
Oh, there
you're back into the audio.
Okay.
Coming back.
Okay, you're back. All right. This is crazy. I was Misty, when you had cut out, I was telling him how often when we're doing these podcasts, this kind of stuff happens. Like, This is probably one of the worst for me. Like, not worst, but I mean, there's so many technical things. Like, whoa, Psychic Sebastian, what are you doing to the internet? You're
so much
breaking
energy.
Well, you know,
I know the first one we did. How many times did we break up?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I couldn't even get it going.
We had to do it the next day. Yeah. So
it was horrible.
Sebastian, I have really, I think you have a lot to offer and a lot to tell people. I would like to invite you to come back sometime and be a guest again.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
And I would also like to, if you can offer any advice to anybody listening to the podcast and they're just experiencing this side of themselves, this psychic side, if you want to call it, or the magic side or anything like that, what kind of advice would you give?
Well, again, a little bit of the story, kind of the way I am. What I have found is that when somebody starts exploring things, at some point something happens. If once they learn how to do it correctly, that makes it real. For me, it became real when I predicted my first death. With tarot cards. Back in the day before, because I don't use tools now. So back in the day, I used tarot cards. That was when it became real for me. And so, being yourself. You always hear people say, "Be yourself," and be yourself. I can tell you that for me, it's no longer a question about whether or not to give readings. I have to. I have side effects if I don't. If I don't give readings, if you don't use your psychic energy, it can make you sick, whether that's anxiety.
Hey, that sounds like me. Yeah.
And so what I suggest to people, if they're just starting out, is most people don't have control when stuff starts first happening. The way you can gain control is to learn a divination system. So whether it be a pendulum, tarot cards, coin tossing, it doesn't matter. A divination system will allow to give you some structure in order to train your mind and your aura in how to give readings.
That's great. I love that.
Silver Raven Wolf, one of my favorite authors. She's a Wiccan author. She's been around for many years. One of her things she says in one of her books is that the goal of magic or using tools in this case, the goal of using tools is to one day not to need them anymore.
Yeah. I kind of feel like I use them. They're definitely tools. I feel like all the information's there, but they kind of pulls it out. Yeah, just gets it out.
Right, exactly. And that collective unconscious we was talking about, that Carl Jung talks about.
Yeah. So Sebastian,
it gives you that like positive, that you did it right. Like you, Lisa, too. You're always self-doubting yourself, and I'm like, no, you're right. I think with you have to use the cards just to tell yourself, yes, I am right.
I don't know. Sometimes, I mean, like if I have a love romance type reading, I'm like, get rid of him right away without any reason. And I'm like, well, actually, he's not that bad. They usually come and they're very upset about him, and then I'm like on their side. So it kind of brings back into focus, like out of the emotional reaction that I initially had.
Of a human,
Just like if I'm outraged that he did what,
that's just
everybody's relationships are like that. They all go crazy because people go crazy when they're in love. Crazy in love.
Oh yeah.
I have one.
Go ahead.
I just want to ask you one question, Sebastian, real quick. So as a telepath, I've noticed you talk really fast. You're a very fast talker. I am too. As a telepath, do you find it frustrating that you can't just have a telepathic conversation all the time with people? Because I imagine that's why you talk so fast. Imagining it.
No, I've actually, ever since I was very little, I naturally talk fast. In fact, like it's so bad that if I hear myself on like a voicemail, I can't understand myself. My brain, my ears can't process it fast enough.
Yeah,
it's very frustrating.
So your ears are slow, but your mouth is fast.
Yeah, exactly. I used to get in trouble for it as a kid by my dad. Actually, my dad was like, and like I said, sometimes it causes trouble now. Sometimes I'm on the phone, especially if I get excited or nervous. That tends to speed it up. That and like I drink coffee, so that'll speed it up too.
Yeah.
But naturally, even when I'm like draggy, just got out of bed, no coffee, whatever, I still talk fast.
Right. So. Me too. Yeah. The coffee will amplify it for sure.
Me when I'm talking.
No, that's how when I listen to myself, I'm always going so much faster. If I'm talking to somebody like you who talks faster, I'll talk even faster. It catches it. It catches. Well, thank you so.
Can I say one more thing?
Absolutely. I'm just afraid that little
website,
timer is going to run out. We'll see.
I'm wanting as many people as can to sign up and get profiles, even if they don't, do anything, because it's a social shopping site, which means you can interact with the other members. Pretty soon you'll be able to go to webinars, workshops. All on the site, all on one site. So.
It's a really cool place. I'm digging it. Yeah, I have a profile.
I'm gonna check it out.
I have a profile. Yeah. I loved it. I thought
make a profile. Yeah, like make sure you use a picture too. I'm gonna ask the developer to make it required. So.
Okay. Yeah, it's a good idea.
Right now, you
that helps
get away
a
with
lot.
that one, but it does.
You have a tendency to see, right? You have a tendency to look at like a scry something. You can pretty much do a lot of different psychic stuff. Like you can scry stuff and look into it.
Scrying, not like you would think. Scrying typically denotes visual. Like if you use like a water or like a crystal ball back here, things like that. Scrying, like I can't do. I've done it once, but
interruption music.
Listeners, guess what? We had another interruption, and we talked about Nancy Grace. That's what happened. So, Misty, would you like to ask Sebastian
that's what you missed.
Questions? Yes, that's what you missed.
Yes, I've got tons and tons of questions. I've just been waiting. Okay, let's see. My first question is, I've done a lot of reading and researching too, and I'm kind of on the lines between something that like is truly evil, whether it be like a part of us or like a thought that is like a bad thought that we're projecting out. And I would like to know what you think about that. Do you think that it's something that like that we come up with, or do you think it's genuinely out there?
Okay. Well, if I go with what I tried with the world perspective that I try to do, there's a lady that has a whole series of books. Named her name is Deborah Wood, I believe. She's I think she's a Hay House author. Anyway, so I've been listening to I've kept hearing in my own life out things will start that I had never heard of much or don't know much about will start repeating itself a lot with new people and stuff, which usually is a sign that I need to like be open to that. And so her books are on Deborah Wood's books are on shadow work. Now, shadow work is the for people to understand it, and I'm just now starting to understand it. It's working. It's working on the darker aspects of yourself and understanding why they're there. Okay?
Yes.
And that's why I've been reading her book. Well, in her book, she talks about how you can take like the little holograms, that like you get out at just Cracker Jacks or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, like if anybody ever even eats those anymore.
Yeah, right. I know.
Well, the little hologram stickers or whatever, that's like 3D or whatever. Like if you cut a hologram into like a little square, like cut a square out of the hologram, it will retain the image of the original hologram. I didn't know that's how that worked. And so
I didn't either.
What she explains is that we each are, a little square of the same thing. So every single thing, and I do believe this because I can literally be anybody's, I swear it doesn't matter who they are. They could have killed my mama. I can be anybody's best friend for 20 minutes or less. I mean, I'm dead serious. Like I've done so much Uber and talked to so many thousands of people giving readings. I do Uber, Amazon Flex, all these people that I think I can relate for a little while to almost anybody. And the reason for that, she even goes into the dark stuff. People who mess with children and stuff like that. How is that an okay thing? And what it is that, like I was saying earlier, my belief that everything is one. That the awareness of God, that is that God, deity, higher power, is experiencing God's self as you're a individualized. I was saying right. You're a spiritual being having individualized human experience, like as Misty, as Lisa, as Sebastian,
yes.
That we're all the same being, just experiencing different sides of that being. And so just like the hologram that retains the self-image, every single thing that is in any human at all is also within yourself. all of it. The world is a projection from the inside. Is the world? And quantum physics have even proven this. There is a projection from inside yourself. I learned in hypnotherapy college that our mind, um, our mind filters it because we can only do about 7 pieces of information at one time.
Right, right. We can only handle so much.
Right.
Yeah.
So our brain, in order to deal with all the thousands of stimuli we have, categorizes, compartmentalizes, deletes, distorts, all these different things in order to organize it. And so even if you don't feel, that something, is there, it's still your perception, your memory may not be
right. That's
accurate,
what I meant.
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like the way Deborah Wood, who's I think she's a PhD, so I'm just gonna refer, I'm not a guru, just refer her to whatever. I'm just I'm a psychic, I'm not an author, but the shadow work, it really made me like I was listening to her audiobooks. She read her own audiobook, so it was really cool because I hear her voice rather than just remembering words.
I love audiobooks too. Yeah.
And she, she's like I said, she even went into like the dark stuff, serial killers, all that stuff. Like how is that part of me? Because I'm not that way. And it's because we're all from the same source. So,
Right.
so duality, which sometimes I struggle with whether or not it's okay to do magic, or whatever. For me personally, because and for others, because the magic denotes that there's an adversary of some kind, and so does a lot of religions. They denote that there's an adversary of some kind, and there's not a duality. It's not a good versus evil. It's more of like a yin yang. It's the way that the Eastern symbol of the yin yang.
Yeah.
It's more gray. Everything's gray, and so I with my stress disorder I was talking about earlier. I used to be extremely like one way or the other, black and white. There was no in between for like everything. To the point that was bad. And I've learned for years now, for the last 15 years, to live in a gray area, to forgive yourself, to forgive others, to have
that's
compassion.
so hard. Yeah, I know.
Because
I struggle.
we're all the same hologram. We're all the
Yeah.
same. We retain every single bit of what we are, and since we're only one thing, that means anything you experience. I hate to say this, it's kind of controversial, but anything you experience or that's brought into your experience is because you thought of it. Is because at some point, earlier, it you thought of it. It crossed your mind. You put some feeling towards it. This is gonna sound strange. I don't watch a lot of television, so that could be it. But I don't ever see ads for Ethiopian starving children anymore because it used to really upset me. Now, like I said, I don't watch a lot of TV anymore, but I do watch Netflix, stuff like that. Get on the internet. I quit thinking about it, and it was removed from my experience.
Yeah.
So if you think about that, every single thing, including the people in your life, is actually just a projection from within inside yourself. Theoretically, if you can truly grasp that and interact with that one energy, then you can literally change the actual reality.
See, and that's what I was thinking too, and that's why I asked that question, because I think along the same lines, as you just said, and it's so hard to change your thinking when you've brought up like good versus evil your whole life. It's hard to change that. But you said something about hypnotherapy, didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Elisa, hello. So have you actually done this?
Hypnotherapy?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was actually in HMI College of Hypnotherapy. I had to stop because it's a long story. The classes were a little too long for my attention span. So I'm actually finishing my certification in a different way with a certification course. It's like a 45-hour course on Udemy. Either way, I'll get a diploma. But yes,
so have you heard of the life before life?
Past life regression. They actually suggest, and yes, I've been taught the basics of past life regression. They suggest doing a past life regression versus doing like an age regression. So because they were because it's somehow they explained it's hard to explain, but it's safer.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, so
I've heard the same thing.
I've tried to do past life regressions on me. I've had 1 or 2 experiences with like past life regression, but it was very short. It was just very glimpses of what it may have been like. One time, I was a blonde hair, like a Swedish person. You know, like the Sound of Music, the movie, the original Sound of Music movie that had she wore like the black and the with the gray skirt apron thing.
Yeah.
The
That's what I
hills
was.
are alive. Sorry.
Exactly. Well, that's what I was wearing. I was a woman with blonde hair. I had 2 kids. We were on a hill in this little bitty tiny house. You know, it was just like I was just watching the kids play. And then the only other time I've done a past life regression, I was like in London or somewhere like that. It looked like something you would see in London, like on like the Demon Barber of Butcher Street or something like that. You know, that type of eerie atmosphere and that type of clothing. So whatever time it was in, but I was about to hang. I think I was about to hang myself actually.
Wow.
In that one, like I just remember, it wasn't that I wasn't experiencing the thoughts I had that time. I was experiencing at first it was first person, and then it's weird though because like I don't know, it's past life regressions and anything like that again deal with memories. And so the reason past life regressions are safer is because it's not so recent.
Right.
And so like it's more like a dream state.
Yes.
Rather where age regression that could be dangerous, you know, would bring up traumas that were recently felt. Now I want to say something about that. One of the things we learned in hypnotherapy class was 2 things. That your blood sugar, even if you're not a diabetic, if your blood sugar gets, you know, even a normal low, it can actually literally change the process of the way that you think. When you think things, in the 19 I believe it was the 1980s, there was a lady that won the Nobel Prize for molecules of emotion. Was her thesis, whatever, that she won the Nobel Prize for. Basically, they did research and they proved that our emotions are peptides. They're chemical reactions with peptides.
Oh my goodness, puppy.
And so,
Yeah,
a lot of a holistic thing that's become really popular is emotional freedom technique. And the way that the way that it works is that when you tap on certain acupressure points, it releases those negative energies that were caught in your energetic circuit, if you want to call it that.
Is that the tapping and
Right, the tapping, right? The
I've
tapping.
done that, yeah.
Right, and it works
Yeah,
because
it does.
because the molecules of emotion proves that sometimes the chemicals, those chemical reactions, get stuck in our body, so it can cause anxiety and body syndromes. Going back to hypnosis, our subconscious is our body. Okay, is one of the things. You know, basically anything we experience in our subconscious is in our body. I don't know if did I answer the question. I don't want to keep rambling.
Well, no, you are. But wait. Stop for just a second. Okay, can you do the hypnotherapy to somebody?
Yeah,
Have you been able to do that?
Yeah, as long as this person fills out a disclaimer, I do hypnotherapy. I just take a love offering right now because I'm a student. But it does, like, if I were to go back to the actual college, then if I were to go back to actual college, then I would have to have so many hours of certification anyway. So I'm trying to do the same thing, even though I'm taking a less expensive course.
Well, Misty's been talking about having past life regression hypnotherapy.
Did you?
I've been hypnotizing people, and I found out all the terminology for it when I went to hypnotherapy college. I went about 6 months or what have you, and I learned all the terminology for it. So what I do is therapeutic imagery. And that can actually is what leads you into past life regression. I do know that there's different types of suggestibility. There's different types of ways to hypnotize people. They used to think that only 60% of people were not able to be hypnotized. They thought 60 couldn't. Now they understand how everybody can be hypnotized.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool.
Through Skype
well, I think a lot of it has to do with your mind setting too. You know what I mean? Like if you really want to do it or if you don't, you're blocking it.
Well, that's usually why hypnotherapists don't really do a whole lot of advertising. That they want people who's wanting to change. They're not wanting people, who's trying to get a quick fix.
That makes sense.
And hypnotherapy is therapeutic, so it's usually more than one session. For a lot of things. Some things there are hypnotherapy miracles, they call them, it happens sometimes. People quit biting I quit biting my nails the first time I was hypnotized about it. I had bitten my nails since I was 4 years old, Now, after about 7 months, it wore off because, I didn't go back and get any more follow-up stuff, But it did last. It wasn't, I quit I just stopped biting my nails. They grew out. It felt really funny. I had bit.
You're like, what are these? I'm Edward Scissorhands.
I'm gonna cut my ear. So my ear would cut it. It does. It was weird. Like I said, I got so nervous though that a couple months ago I started, but I started biting them again. Like I said, it was like 9 months before it wore off. Like I said, I never went and got the rest of the therapy on it. So like I said, hypnotherapy tends to be more than one session. If people are listening, free sessions are available.
Yes.
Yeah.
Misty's number one on the checklist. Yeah, she's like, what's your name? What's your number?
Yeah.
I do take.
What do you do tomorrow?
Misty, you got to go to that website. Check it out. That's what you got to do.
The hypnotherapy is going to be there in a section soon by itself. I just haven't got to that section yet. But if anybody can go on there and book with me, and we can do the hypnotherapy via video. There's video chat, and I can lower it enough to where it'll average out to what it would normally be for a regular hypnotherapy session. So if anybody wants to go to the website, they can.
Isn't that awesome?
That's really awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna say if anybody goes there, it's really big, huge letters. Book an appointment. You just click it, schedule it, and we'll do it.
That sounds like something everybody needs.
So much fun.
I have had readings. I have had readings from him, and they're awesome. Yeah, and they've been hypnotized though, that I know of.
Me and Lisa are up for it.
Yeah, Misty's up for it.
Well, there's a difference in something what they learned. There's a difference.
Oh, I am. I will go first.
Thank you.
There's a difference in being hypnotic and being hypnotized, by the way. They made that distinction. There's a difference between being hypnotic and hypnosis. Hypnosis actually is a heightened state of awareness to where we can distract your critical mind in order to put stuff in the subconscious. And you don't actually fall asleep. Sometimes there is amnesia, but that usually just means
right.
Because it's kind of like a dream state. So
okay. Well, Sebastian, it has been just great having you on the show. Misty, did you have any more questions or?
Oh, I could go on and on and on.
I could too. We've been going. We have been going. That's why I wanted him to come back, because I was like, this feels like we've only been talking for 5 or 10 minutes. And it's like, well,
it really does. How long have we been talking? Was the first one 4 minutes?
Over an hour. This has been over an hour. Yeah. So once I cut out all the little. You're a great conversationalist. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me on the show. Thank you so much for having me on the show, and I hope to be a reoccurring character. Everybody should know that my life is based on a true story. So, my life is based on a true story, and y'all are part of that life, and I thank you for that.
And thank you. You can find Sebastian at whenpigsflypsychics.com. I'll put that in the description, and you can always check us out at we'reallpsychic.com. And I'll put that in the description. If anyone else wants to be a guest out there, just send me an email. I had a scammer try to get me recently, but I fell for it a little bit. But it's kind of like, wow, their site is not reflecting what they're saying, their website. So she knew it. She wasn't going to say anything because I was excited. But
I kind of I had a bad feeling about it.
But I accept scammers too.
We're desperate.
Anybody.
Well, remember,
they're the skeptics right there, man.
Right? Gotta remember that hologram thing, though. One way they say it is that if you see something in somebody else when you're starting to get to know them, that means it's within yourself.
I like that. Okay.
That's a good thing to
leave. Because you can't see something you've never experienced in yourself.
Okay. But we have experienced everything ourselves for the hologram.
Correct.
Kind of. That's great. Great. We gotta go down that rabbit hole next time. Probably every time.
Yes, we
did. Right.
Thank you so much.
I've had so much fun, and I hope to see y'all around. Okay.
Definitely. Bye. And thank you for listening, everybody.
Bye.
So thank you all for listening. I'd loved having Sebastian on the show, and it was really great to do the show with Misty. I wanted to let you know how I met Sebastian. I met him a couple years ago when Bunny and Megan and I did the Psychic Cat app, which we'll discuss at another time, hopefully. And thank you all so much for listening. And sorry for the delay in posting this. We recorded it a few days ago, but it's been a time. Thank you guys. Have a great day.